I am 611 years old. I have never had children of my own, but I have many nieces and nephews and cousins who have been raised with the tales and traditions of our ancient, illustrious, and occasionally notorious clan, the Direni. Few families in Tamriel can boast so many famous figures, wielding so much power over the fate of so many. Our warriors and kings are stuff of legend, and it is not to dismiss their honor and their achievements to say you have heard quite enough about them. I myself have never picked up a sword or written an important lore, but I am part of a lesser known but still important Direni tradition, the Way of the Wizard. My own autobiography would be of little interest to posterity, though my nephew, nieces, and cousins indulge me to tell wild tales of life in the chaotic second era of Tamriel, but I have a few ancestors whose stories should be told. They may have changed history as we know it as dramatically as my better-known relatives, but their names are in danger of being forgotten. Despite his ministrations, she grew weaker and weaker every morning. Finally, he gave her a bitter-tasting drink, and the next morning, ashes were found all around her bed. A vampire had been feeding on the poor girl, but Asliel's potion had turned her very blood into poison, without harming her in the least. If only this formula had not been lost in the mists of history. This would have been enough to make him a minor but significant figure in the annals of early Somerset, but at that point in history, a barbarian tribe called the Lokvar had found their way down the Diran River, and recognized Tirajul as a rich target for raids. The Direni, not being warriors yet but simple farmers, were helpless and could only flee and watch the Lokvar take the best of their crops, raid after raid. Asliel, however, had been experimenting with the vampire dust, and brought his cousins to him with a plan. The next time the Lokvar was sighted on the Diran, the word went out and all the most able-bodied came to Asliel's laboratory. When the barbarians arrived in Tirajul, they found the farms deserted, and assumed that all had fled as usual.
As they set about stealing the bounty, they suddenly found themselves under attack by invisible forces. Believing the Direni farms to be haunted, they ran away very quickly. They attempted a few more raids, for their greed would always eventually overpower their fear, and each time, they set upon by attackers who they could not see. As barbaric as they were not stupid, and they changed their mind about the source of their defeat. It could not be that the farms were haunted, and the animals seemed to show no fear. The Lokvar decided to send a scout to the farm to see if he could spy their secrets. The scout sent word back to the Lokvar that the Direni farms were populated with flesh and blood, entirely visible Altma. He continued to watch as his barbarian cohorts moved down the river, and he saw the elderly and children flee for the hills, while the able-blooded farmers and their wives went to Asliel's laboratory. He saw them go in, he saw no one come out. As usual, the Lokvar were repelled by invisible forces, but their scout soon told them what he saw happening in the laboratory.
The next night, two of the Lokvar approached Asliel's farm very stealthily, and managed to kidnap him without alerting the rest of the Direni. The Lokvar chieftain, knowing that the farmers could no longer count on the alchemist to make them invisible, considered an immediate attack on the farms. But he was a vengeful sort, and felt he had been humiliated by these simple farmers. A crafty plan emerged in his mind. What if the Direni, who always saw his barbarian tribe coming, for once did not? Imagine the slaughter if no one even had a chance to flee. The scout had told the chieftain that Asliel had used the dust of a vampire to make the farmers invisible, but he was not sure what the other ingredient had been. He described an incandescent powder that Asliel had mixed into the dust. Asliel, of course, refused to help the Lokvar, but they were experts in torture as well as pillage, and he knew he would have to talk or die. Finally, after hours of torture, he agreed to tell them what the incandescent powder was. He did not know the name, but he called it glow dust, the only remains of a slain will-o'-the-wisp. He told them they would need a lot of it if they wanted to turn the whole tribe invisible for the raid.
The Lokvar grumbled that not only did they have to find and kill a vampire to attain his dust, but find and kill several will-o'-the-wisps to get theirs. In a few days' time, they came back with the ingredients the alchemist asked for. The chieftain, not being a complete idiot, made Aslil taste the potion first. He did as he was told and turned invisible, demonstrating that it did truly work. The chieftain put him to work creating more. No one apparently noticed that while he did, he was nibbling on black lichen and rue brush. The Lokva took the potion as he doled it out, and soon, but not too soon that they didn't suffer, they were all dead. The scout who had seen Aslil mixing the invisibility potion had apparently mistook the glow of the candlelight in the laboratory for an incandescence which the second ingredient of the invisibility potion did not possess. The second ingredient was actual dull, simple red wort, one of the most common herbs in Tamriel. When they had insisted during torture that Aslil tell them what the incandescent powder was, Aslil remembered that he had once experimentally mixed glow dust and vampire dust together once and created a powerful poison. It was simple enough to steal a little red wort from the barbarians' camp, mix that with the vampire and glow dust mixture, and create a potion that was in fact an invisibility poison. After curing himself, he gave the poison to the barbarians.
The Lokvar, being dead, never again raided the Direnni farms, and having no other enemies, they were able to grow more and more prosperous and powerful. Generations later, they left Somerset and began their historic adventures on the Tamriel mainland. Aslil Direnni, because of his excellence as an alchemist, was invited to Artium and became a Sigil. It is not known how many more of the common formulas we know today were invented by him there, but I have no doubt the science and art of alchemy as we know it today would not exist without him. But that is all in the distant past. Aslil's innovations, like my modest ones, like the achievements of the Dirennis throughout history, are but a stepping stone to the wonders which will come in the future. I wish I could be there to witness them, but if I can only share some of the past with the children of Direnni and the children of Tamriel, then I will consider my life well spent.
The Ministry of Truth floats above the temple canton. Actually a small moonlet from oblivion called Bardau, this celestial object is said to have been stopped in its fall toward the city of Vivek by Lord Vivek himself, who brought it to rest above the temple canton, where it has hovered ever since. Although the moonlet looks quite majestic hovering sedately above the city, local legend maintains that, should the populace cease to worship Vivek, the moonlet will complete its fall and raise the city. The temple has dug many tunnels and chambers into the moonlet and converted it into a maximum security prison for dissidents and religious criminals, the term being vague and hence being open to interpretation, allowing various people to be imprisoned. The security of the ministry is obvious to any who see it. The only way to end and flee from the moonlet is by flight.
The entrance and various inside doors are locked and heavily guarded by ordinators, most of them hostile. Unlike most ordinators, however, they will not only not turn hostile if you're wearing ordinator armor, but will also let you pass. Their fight is not too high. There are a few others on whom different methods can be used to avoid bloodshed. If you are an adept or higher in the temple hierarchy, the guards will warn you to leave the first time you talk to them, and become hostile on the second, in which case all guards in the area will attack you on sight. If you have the Morrowind patch project installed and are the patriarch of the temple, they will protest the irregularity of your demands for access to the ministry, but will nevertheless comply, giving you directions to people in charge with the keys and warning you about the hostile guards. The temple canton is considered the holiest place in all of Vardenfell by the Dunmer. It is the headquarters of the tribunal temple and home of the living god Vivek, and is visited by hundreds of tourists and pilgrims daily. The High Fane is the largest tribunal temple on Vardenfell and is presided over by the Archcanon, along with a large staff of priests, healers, and monks. The Hall of Wisdom and Hall of Justice contain the executive, administrative, judicial and martial operations of the tribunal temple, while the Ministry of Truth, a moon suspended by Vivek's power above the canton, provides a prison and re-education center operated by the temple ordinators for the correction of heretics.
Mayor Milo is a dissident priest working in the library of Vivek undercover and your first contact with the group. You'll find many common books here along with a land deed. In the office of the watch you'll find 2 ranking ordinators, Tara Brarin and Elam Anders, who have some jobs for you. A hidden trapdoor leads to the secret library of Vivek, which contains many interesting books, among them Progress of Truth, Galore Rithari's Papers, and Vampires of Vardenfell, Volume 2. The Hall of Wisdom is where many temple staff have their sleeping quarters and their offices. At the base of the canton lies a typical underworks, inhabited by rats and slaughterfish. It can be accessed through the Halls of Justice or Wisdom, or through underwater grates to the northwest, northeast and southeast of the canton. Thola Sarioni is the patriarch and archcanon of the Tribunal Temple, located in his offices behind a locked door. Endrin Lethan is a quest giver for the temple as well. There are a great number of shrines giving blessings to the faithful. The Ministry of Truth is a hollow moon floating above the temple canton, which functions as a prison and re-education center for temple dissidents. When visited, Alvila Saram will provide a key to get in. 2 bridges north connect to the St. Delin and St. Omes cantons. A bridge south leads to the Palace of Vivek. The gondola on the west side provides transportation to the Arena, Harlu and Telvanni cantons.